Hey guys, this is Bharatwaj with Fonearena.com, and this is the Panasonic P81 that we recently unboxed. This phone is a mid-range phone from the company and sports a 13 megapixel camera at the back. This is what the video is going to be all about. It's about the 13 megapixel camera, its performance and its interface. We are going to show you that and more in the camera review of the Panasonic P81. So let's start with the interface. What you're seeing here is the lock screen gesture place where you can draw these gestures that directly takes you to the camera. Sometimes it recognizes it, sometimes it doesn't, but now it did. So this is the camera interface on the Panasonic P81. What you see here on the right is the toggles for flash and the front facing camera. You have the bubble that takes you to the album or the gallery. You have shutter buttons for the stills and the video. There is no switching modes. It's all happening in the same place. And then there is a mode switcher, which is very much like Samsung's UI. As you already know, the Panasonic P81 has this TouchWiz styled UI. So normal, HDR, panorama and GIF, that's what you got. And over here in the settings, you got all these extra settings in one place. So the scene mode is currently set to auto. You got more scene modes, and then you have white balance, store location, delay, burst pictures. Picture size is of course 13 megapixel. Video size at 1080p. Video duration can be anything in terms of minutes. You have electronic image stabilization through software. Screen capture, which lets you take photos by a single touch, and scene detection, which is useful if you don't want to change scenes. You have the output format for the videos, which is at MP4 or 3GB. Storage, internal or external, and all the other things, all the other usual settings including grid. So that's the camera settings in whole. And lastly, you have these very basic filters that you can apply to the image, live filters that you need. And yeah, that's about it. That's it for the camera interface, and that's the Panasonic P81. It's actually based on the MediaTek octa-core CPU, but it doesn't have the MediaTek camera app, which is interesting. And this is the first time Panasonic has involved in using a different UI than the stock. So that aside, let's talk about the performance of the camera. This is a 13 megapixel camera, so you must be wondering how it is like. We took several photos in several conditions as usual, and here are them, starting with the daylight pictures. So as you saw, these are some of the daylight pictures that we showed you earlier. The only thing that is very striking with these pictures is that there is a certain lack of detail, a little bit of fuzziness when it comes to capturing details. This we have seen in many cameras that come in this price range, including the Micromax Canvas 4, which exhibits very similar properties, so we think it could be the same sensor. The details are pretty much washed out in terms of the noise compression and the algorithms. You can see clearly here that most of the things here are washed out, but when it comes to some pictures, like taking up close, the details are pretty decent. The color accuracy is also pretty nice, but again, when it comes to details, for example, these lines are meant to be visible. There are more lines here than it shows in the picture, so there is a lot of difference when it comes to details, but we think it's pretty decent when it comes to daylight performance. Now let's move on to macro samples here. So as you saw, here are some macro samples that we showed you. These macro samples are pretty decent. The detail is there when compared to other devices in the same price range, but still we are not satisfied with the amount of detail that you get. It's not exactly spectacular, but it's not too bad either. So I think it's a good compromise when it comes to this price range, and the color reproduction and the decent amount of bokeh that you see is pretty good. Now moving on to the next thing is HDR. So here are two samples with and without HDR. As you can see, it is a very minor difference and it seems like just an up a notch in brightness. That's about it. That's the main difference that we see between the two photos. The dynamic range is not really great and most possibly just a gimmicky feature. And there is also the other mode, which is GIF or GIF, whatever way you want to call it. It takes 20 pictures in succession and it takes it really slow, as you can see, and makes it into a GIF. So going to the thumbnail, it will take us to the gallery and clicking on the thumbnail will autoplay of the GIF. So it's pretty basic and it's just 20 photos taken in succession turned into a GIF. You have no other control over it, so it's again just a gimmicky mode, but otherwise pretty decent performance here when it comes to daylight and also macro. But as expected, the phone was very bad at low light images. Here are some low light images to show you how it performed. So as you saw from those samples, including this, there is a lot of noise and there is a lack of detail. This is at strictly very low light and all cameras struggle in this condition. But expected is that this camera too will perform really badly in low light conditions. That really expected. And in terms of flash, it kind of slightly overblows, but it's pretty decent when compared to the other devices that usually overblow them too much. So that's the flash, and without flash you saw already. So that's the low light performance of the Panasonic P81. Now let's take a look at video, which records at 1080p.
Hey guys, welcome to Fonearena's YouTube channel. This is the full HD video sample from Panasonic P81.
Well, as you saw from the sample, the detail is actually pretty decent. It's very similar to what you saw with the daylight images. It's a bit sharper and a bit over-processed, yes, but otherwise the audio is decent and it records in MP4, so that's pretty good. So that's the video performance and the overall look at the camera of the Panasonic P81. Our verdict is that it's pretty decent. It's much like the Canvas 4 or any other 13 megapixel camera in that price range, but slightly better than the ones like Zolo Q3000, which was pretty bad, to be honest. So that's about it for the camera review of the Panasonic P81. Do let us know what you think in the comment section below, and do hit the like button if you like this video, and do hit the subscribe button if you want more videos like these. Thanks for watching.